Yo, I'm Kurose Gaming and welcome to the video. So, question, how do you make a sequel after making such a classic and making it just as good? Well, if there's anything to go about with these two games, then it's probably to be experimental. Very experimental. Oh boy, this is gonna be some shit.
Man, I'm not even gonna lie to you, I was not looking forward to reviewing this game at all.
But hey, it can't be the worst game ever, right? Hopefully. Oh shit.
Zelda II released in the US in 1988 for the NES. The game is a direct sequel from the original Legend of Zelda and has Link on a journey to obtain the Triforce of Courage in order to awaken a new Zelda,
Oh mother of God.
while avoiding Ganon's minions, who wants him dead by any means necessary. Now, as a sequel, this game does exactly what Castlevania and Mario did for their sequels.
Almost burned it to the fucking ground.
Zelda 2 is very decisive for many reasons. While the game was a critical and financial success, the game has been heralded as a black sheep of the Zelda franchise. Like Simon's Quest, when you look up the reviews for this game, it's always mixed, with some saying that it's pretty good, with others saying it's absolute shit.
But let's not waste any more time and let's get straight into it. Cause I might have to get some things off my chest that may be good, maybe bad.
Similar to the original Zelda, this game doesn't really have a story. Okay, well actually I'm lying. Zelda 2 takes place 6 years after the events of the first game.
Which in hindsight is very concerning that a 10-year-old boy was responsible for saving a princess. What the fuck?
After Link gets a weird marking on his hand, he seeks out Impa, who later directs him to a sleeping girl named Zelda. But not the Zelda from the first game.
Dear mother of God.
This game's Zelda was put into an eternal sleep after getting into an argument with her brother, and in order to wake her up, Link is tasked by Impa to get the Triforce of Courage by traveling to 6 different palaces and placing 6 crystals to gain access to the Great Palace in order to get the Triforce. However, Ganon's minions want his ass dead by any means necessary so they can spill Link's blood on Ganon's ashes to revive him.
And this translates both in the story and in the gameplay, because holy shit. Now, this game is in every way experimental, while still being sort of similar at the same time.
The game is now a side-scroller with RPG elements. Trust me, when I heard this, I was surprised as well. As you fight enemies, Link will get experience points, and after he gets enough, he can level up one of his attributes such as increased health, increased damage, and the new mechanic added being an increased magic meter. The magic meter will become commonplace in every Zelda game, and you can obtain new spells by going in towns and doing very minor fetch quests. Now, this game has an overworld, which has you going from one place to another, but certain paths are blocked unless you have the corresponding item, such as a hammer for a big ass rock, or a flute for whatever the fuck that is. These little spots are the palaces, and I'm just gonna say this now, you're gonna hate these places. The palaces has items needed to progress through the game, as well as a statue to put the crystals in. Now these palaces don't really have puzzles, instead they're normally in the overworld, and at the end you have to face the boss, which can range from being kind of easy to having you want to draw your controller at the TV. So, what's the problem with this gameplay? Well, it's very inconsistent and archaic as hell. In this game, Link has 3 lives, lose them all, and of course, it's game over. Okay, but prepare for this shit. If you game over, you start all the way back inside where Zelda is. And if you're on the other side of the map, you have to trek all the way back, which is worse when you have to go through Death Mountain. Okay, before I talk about Death Mountain, let's at least talk about the enemies, and then afterwards, everything else about this fucking game. The enemies in this game, let's just say, really want Link dead, and will resort to any, and I mean any method to do so. In the overworld, if you stray from the yellow brick road, enemies begin to spawn and you'll be thrusted into an action sequence. And sometimes there may not be a lot to deal with, but other times it feels like you're an enemy in Jujutsu Kaisen, the way you get your ass jumped in every aching second. But my god, the worst is to come when dealing with Death Mountain, which has become my single worst experience I've ever had in a video game. And I have many, to say the least. Remember when I said the puzzles were mainly on the world map? Well, Death Mountain is one of those cases. The problem is that you have no hint on how to proceed through the dungeon, and it's based a lot on trial and error. For this, and just through the game in general, I said fuck it, I'm playing with a guide, which only helped me about 25% on my trek through Death Mountain. Now, the first couple rooms were fine, the enemies were spaced out and fairly easy to kill. But when these bitches came out, It was the worst. These Michael Vick, Mr. T looking ass dogs were hard to avoid, especially with limited magic. You had to be careful as hell not to mess up, or guess what? You're dead and you have to trek through Death Mountain all over again.
Oh, hell no!
Death Mountain is the biggest difficulty spike you can experience early on in the game, but it only gets worse. The rest of the game is difficult, if not sometimes painfully so. It isn't like Ghosts and Goblins difficult, but more like the first Mega Man difficult. The main source of difficulty comes from the enemies themselves, especially because some of them are hard to hit and you have to be patient with this game. Paying attention to enemy movements and patterns can drastically make this game a lot easier. An example are the Iron Knuckles, which are some of the most annoying enemies to kill, and something I didn't think about doing until damn near the end of the game was jumping and then slashing at the right moment to deal quick damage.
Yes! Stay dead, bitch!
Another thing that makes this game a lot easier is having good management with magic, which is practically your lifeline. Throughout Link's adventure, he can gain new magic abilities, which ranges from a spell that lowers the damage you take from enemies to a whole ass screen nuke, which is very, very expensive. Using these spells is important to survive the plethora of crap that Zelda II will throw at you. Oh, and one more thing. Throughout the game, Link can obtain sword techniques such as the downward and upward thrust. While the latter is situational at best, the former is so damn useful and will save your ass a lot. Finally, for everything else that this game offers, it's an actual step up when it comes to graphics, music, and the environments. The game's music is pretty catchy and fits the vibes with your environment as you explore Hyrule. The graphics are smoother and has a little more complex details on them, especially when it comes to enemy action. And the game has actual towns with people. There's a woman in there that can restore your health by
giving you a special massage.
And there's an old lady who can restore your magic with some good old Mary Jane. But the rest of the people are useless, and then there's this one guy that just says, I am error. Okay then.
So let's answer this question. Should you play Zelda 2? Again, like last time, yes and no.
Now, I'm gonna be honest here. This is a Zelda game that truly aged like dino shit. And it's not as hard as, say, Ghosts and Goblins, but it's pretty close. If you don't treat this game like a traditional Zelda game and more like an action RPG, you will find some enjoyment. But other than that, I'm gonna just say this. If you do want to play this game, then at least play on the emulator or on a Nintendo Switch Online service to make it easier on your life.
God, this game is finally done. Oh, yes. Jesus Christ, we're already halfway through the year. Anyway, sorry. Thank you guys so much for coming to today's video, and for the next review, we're going to be reviewing A Link to the Past, which is going to be a much better experience, to say the least. Hopefully. Maybe. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, and maybe consider subscribing if you like the video and you want to see more. You know? Maybe. And with that, stay safe and stay vibing, my guys. Yeah.